and welcome to the DM's Journal. I think that D&D groups are like salons. A salon, for those of you who don't know, is spelled S-A-L-O-N. And they were gatherings of artists and writers and intellectuals, general intellectuals, started in the Renaissance in Italy and became most popular in the 16th and 17th century France. That's why it's called salon. They're French. But they were just places where people met and talked about art and culture and philosophy, and they were supposed to both entertain and educate. I find a lot of parallels in that gathering of intellectuals and artists in the D&D group. For example, one of my players is writing his backstory. I say writing because his backstory is not yet done. We've been playing the game every other week for about 2 months now, and he still hasn't finished his backstory. Not because he is lazy, but because his backstory is beautifully crafted and wonderfully written. It's a joy to read, personally. And he's throwing his effort and his obvious writing talent into that. And that's beautiful. Another player of mine, she's playing a monk, and she wants to make her own healing potions. In real life, this player is an herbalist and a naturopathic doctor. She was asking, when she got the healer's kit, she was asking whether or not she could make her own healing potions and what ingredients I would have to buy. And I said, you can come up with your own mixture if you want to. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really matter to me. These are the mechanics. These are the dice you'll roll when you do a healing potion. But other than that, have fun with the lore. So she texted me a list. I still haven't gone through it, but she texted me a list of all of these herbs that she's made and why she's made them. And so now I have ingredients that I can pepper in, and I can say, oh, you're walking through the field, and I can just throw in, yeah, you see some of this herb and some of this herb and some of this herb in my descriptions, which will just make everything come alive more. And then I have another player. He's a bard, and so I gave him his first bardic conquest. I made a little NPC solely. The entire point of this NPC was to be seduced and conquered by the bard. And he did. And I was like, haha, that was fun. And then he was playing the piano, and I know he was playing the piano because he's my husband and I watched him do this, which was also fun role-playing. I hope the other players don't mind, but he's just so cute. I love flirting with him. But he sat down and he started to write a love song for this NPC. Beyond those 3 examples, just the gathering of the groups themselves. They have conversations about what they should and should not do, and how they should and should not act, and what is the right thing to do and why it is, and they get to argue passionately inhabiting these other characters, and it stretches and grows their minds, and I was just struck by how beautiful it was and how important it was. And then I started thinking about the context of me as a DM. If we continue with the salon metaphor, I would be the mistress of the salon. Like Isabel d'Este or Elisabetta Gonzaga. Elisabetta Gonzaga. I thought her name was Gorgonzola for a second. Oops. But it was often women patronesses. What do you know about that? Women who hosted these things because women knew how to host parties and gather people together, which is something that the men didn't do. The men made the women do that. But we're not here for gender. We're not going to talk about gender in the 16th and 17th century. Not on this video series, anyway. So if if we think of D&D groups as salons, as places where people can come not only to amuse themselves, but also to have the freedom and the inspiration to create, to better themselves, to think and experience new things, what does that mean for me as a DM? What does that make my responsibility as a DM? It's not just prep the monsters, get a village, name some NPCs, let's go. I want to start taking more care to really not just amuse my players, but encourage them to grow artistically, to explore the bounds of what they can become. But that's really big and huge, and there's only so much one can do. So how do I do that? I'm learning, I guess? I don't know. I'm trying. I am blessed with very roleplay heavy characters. They love having conversations in character. They love making choices in character. And because we're still sort of early, they're just now level 4, and we still haven't really come across a major arc yet. I have ideas, but I don't know how to play that. I don't know how to organize it. I don't know how to structure it without giving it away immediately. But I don't need to worry about that yet at the moment. They're fine with a little mini arc. And we can figure that out later. But, so this last session I ran for them was all roleplay. There was dice rolling and a bit of combat, but it wasn't like, here's a monster, go and fight it. And I was super proud about that, because that's generally been my thing. It's been, here's the setup, here's the big monster, go fight the bed bag, yay, get your treasure and leave. Which is fine, it's fun for D&D sessions, great for one-shots. But I wanted to do something more, because I'm trying to get a campaign. I want to go into the long con. So they were traveling from point A to point B, and I was like, okay, they need a pit stop. So let's give them a pit stop. Let's stop at a village, and then I can just have a small little village. And I peppered it with a few NPCs and a few things that I thought my players would like to engage in, because I was trying to think of them and their characters and what they liked and what they didn't like. One of my players is a wrestler, and then another of my players is a monk. And I was like, all right, it would be great here, a fighting pit. And the wrestler PC, Toro Rojo, he's a minotaur. In some of the earlier fights that we've done together, he's been very showy, sort of like, haha, I'm a heel, and like a WWE wrestler. And I was like, cool, let's make a WWE fighting pit in this in this little village. And so I sort of made it. I had masks and I had characters, and it was super fun. But he didn't take the bait. He didn't want to, because the player said Toro Rojo, he doesn't see, A, he doesn't want to pummel these 2-bit villagers. And I was like, all right, fair. And he said, B, he doesn't see the point without any real violence, without any real threat. It's all for show. Nobody's actually getting hurt. And so his character didn't find much glory in it. Neither did the monk, which honestly I shouldn't have been too surprised about, because the monk is very pacifist. She's our healer. But the person who was into it was the bard. So I got to roleplay this bard, and he didn't win the fight, actually. He purposefully lost the fight. And we had some arm wrestling happening in the bar as they were prepping for the fight. And then, of course, the bard had his, conquest. And then I peppered in a racist character, but I made it a small religious cult. Very boring, because, racism is fucking boring. But I put that character in there because I thought that if the monk didn't go for the fighting pit, then she'd really like to go for this racist and, give him a piece of her mind. But I never got a chance to do anything with the character too much. Firstly, because our rogue, who's a warforged, poisoned him just enough to make him throw up. and then came into his room, and after a brief confrontation, murdered him. I'm sitting here like, whoa, did not see that coming at all. She just, like, shaked him. And I was like, whoops. And then she got another case. She got the warlock in there, because at that point, the bard was out having his conquest, and the only other person who could do magic, like, prestidigitate the blood, she was very, it was kind of eerie, because she was like, yeah, I stab him, and there's blood pool, and then I fit him into this chest that I had described. And I was like, yep, you know what? I've seen that in murder mysteries before. So she did, and then the warlock came up and prestidigitated it. Long story short, they're carrying a dead body in a box, which is pretty interesting. But to tie that back around to my original point, which I think I've lost a little bit because I had some apple brandy before filming, is that session was super fun. Going forward, looking into the future, I want to try and create sessions and scenarios that is more than just, ooh, look, a big scary monster. I want to make things that not only provide opportunities for my players to flex their enormous and beautiful creativity, but also to allow them to engage in conversations that they might never engage in otherwise, to talk about big concepts, interesting concepts, to take these band of friends, these beautiful people that I have managed to surround myself with, and I just want to give them all of the care in the world that they can grow and become beautiful. Because the world is a very dark place right now. I mean, it's always dark for somebody. We always say that. The world's a really dark place right now. Somebody is always, I mean, that's always true from someone's perspective. There has never been true peace in the world. But some days we just feel it a lot more than others, and I feel it a lot lately. When we meet in these little groups and play our structured games of make-believe and pretend that the, school children play with much less rules and no dice. They're just opportunities for art to happen, and nobody has to see it other than the people in the group, and I don't know, it's meaningful and beautiful, and I'm losing the thread because I'm crying and embarrassed. So we're gonna call that good for now. I don't know when the next one's gonna be up, and I'm not gonna promise you when the next one's gonna be up, because I never know when the next one is gonna be up. Thank you for watching, if you watched, and if you feel like it, let me know what your players have done to inspire you and to humble you. And was there a moment when one of your players did something and you were like, oh my god, I'm a leader of these group, I'm making a safe space for these people, and that's beautiful. Alright, I'm just gonna get more emotional if I keep filming. So I'm gonna sign off now. But stay beautiful.